Hey guys, Katie Taylor here, and I am joining the creative design team for our monthly collab. This month is all about creative ways to use 8.5 by 11 sketches, featuring our brand new sketchbook, which you guessed it, is all about 8.5 by 11 sketches. Here is a look at the products that I've initially pulled to use. Hopefully I'll stick probably pretty true to those. And then, of course, I have the sketchbook. So here is the cover of that. Now, I have chosen to print mine at Office Depot and have it bound, but you can even print from home, do whatever you want to do. I'm going to be using this sketch right here. And I love that the tags are kind of tucked in behind not only the strips of paper, but this little photo right here. And then, of course, the big oversized title. And you'll notice that all these sketches do come with the measurements like you've seen in all the rest of the creative design team videos this week. So for the tags, I have plenty of tag shapes, tag die cuts, but I think I'm going to just kind of add something to this layout by using the Coset card making. You guys have seen me use this a lot if you follow me on Instagram, and I'm going to continue with that. I don't know if I'm truly going to make it a tag and go ahead and punch a hole in it or not. That remains to be seen. And then I've also pulled out some mix-ins. Now, two of these are from the current mix-in, the April through June catalog. And you can see here, it's got that wood grain. And remember, our mix-ins, you get one sheet of each pattern. So I haven't used this one yet because I only have one sheet, and you know, it's just kind of commitment for me. But I liked that the other side was this kind of canvas look. So I'm planning on using the wood grain, but I might also use the canvas. And then, of course, it has this papaya. Now, these are stars, but at first glance, if you just kind of glance at it from afar, they just look like polka dots, which you guys know I love. And then the back side is more of an elegant feel to it. Not sure if my photos will match with that, but we will have to see. And then the third mix-in is actually a sneak peek at our new July-August catalog. And this is toffee. So you've got the toffee and white polka dot, and then you've got the plaid on the back side. Now, even though I am a maker and I get a preview of this, you can even get a preview because this is what comes in the Endless Sunshine NSD kit. That workshop is actually a mini album, but it also comes with the stamp set. So I'm probably going to pull in the stamp set specifically for this sun image. I don't know if I'm going to use that one or maybe a combination of these. But this mix-in actually is live, and you get the whole caboodle. I've already used some of it, so I've only pulled the toffee. And then I've pulled a couple of cardstock colors, and this is the toffee. Now, remember that Close to My Heart's cardstock is the true color on one side and the lighter on the other. So I've got toffee here, and then I've got periwinkle, which, you know, at first glance, periwinkle, toffee, and papaya. What in the heck are you doing, Katie? But I'll show you here in a second in my photos. So I've got periwinkle, and then I've already got two white daisy 8.5 by 11s cut down. So the photos that I'm going to be using are from our most recent trip to Cancun. And right away, can you see how that periwinkle plays on the clouds in this photo? So I absolutely love it. And then one thing I love about 8.5 by 11s, and I'm going to show you here, is I am going to incorporate this into my 12 by 12 scrapbooking. And then you can also actually make them 12 by 12. I'm not going to show you that here, but I am going to show you a quick example. So hold on tight before we get to that, before we get to the process, so I can show you right quick what that looks like in an everyday 12 by 12 album. So I use 3-ring binders, the 3-ring albums or the D-ring albums for my albums because I don't scrapbook chronologically. So it's just really easy for me to throw things in place as I scrapbook them. And so here is my playa album. Well, some of it, I'm not done. So we've got this, and then, you know, you're flipping through here, and then, oh, all of a sudden I have a little bitty sheet, and then got to fill a hole there. And then we've got some more, and then you've got a 6x6. And then you have the 8.5 by 11. And I just love that it just creates so much interaction. You know, not only do I love using flip flaps in my albums, but when you include different sizes of layouts, it's just something to just give the viewer something to look at. You know, I know that you've seen it. People just kind of thumb through your albums and they're just like, oh yeah, that's nice. They're just half looking at it. And then all of a sudden when they come to something that allows them to interact, they feel the story more. And so that is why I am excited to be using the 8.5 by 11 sketchbook to just incorporate into all my albums. This, of course, is Cancun, so I'll incorporate it into that album, but you'll see me also use it for maybe school photos, sports photos, anything like that. And then also the good thing about it is this sketchbook can be used for single or double. So you'll see here that I'm going to have one on the front side and one on the back side. So you don't necessarily see them side by side, but they're still going to be cohesive and they're going to go together. And then here is what it looks like to actually just adapt that 8.5 by 11 to a 12 by 12 simply by putting it onto a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock and just letting your embellishments and your photos kind of go off the edge of the 8.5 by 11, and then you have a perfectly 12 by 12 scrapbook layout that you can incorporate into your scrapbooking if you are a 12 by 12 scrapbooker. So now let's get started on my layout. I have all my pieces cut, and I've gone ahead and I've added some toffee ink using a sponge to all the rest of the strips, but I wanted to do periwinkle on camera just to kind of show you, if you're new here, this is something I do often, and also to show you it doesn't have to necessarily be the same color ink. So you can see here that's toffee. It's just going to add kind of that beachy feel that I want portrayed in this layout. And while I kept these strips straight like they were in the sketchbook, you definitely could do some paper tearing or even some stamping, something like that on them, just to kind of give it some dimension. Especially when you're working with water, I think that our cardstock torn makes it look like sand, and then of course this could mimic the water as well. I'm just going to kind of clean off my sponge that's coming off. And then that little arc from the Cosette card making, I went ahead and did a Dream Maker pattern paper. It's ever so subtle, but it is periwinkle. Only the tops of these are going to show, but I still just love just going ahead and inking the whole thing, and it's one of those things that I can do pretty quickly. And then I've pulled out a zip strip. Not sure I'm going to use that. And of course I did cut that arch, just regular white daisy cardstock, just in case I don't like the pattern paper. Now we need to start preparing the base layout. And so they're going to be pretty plain, if you will. You know, remember that these strips of paper just kind of go up, and then you have the photos. So I want to add some ink elements to this by way of just taking my ink pad. I'm going to take toffee again, and make sure you're on a workable surface. So I've got my glass board here, but if you have an all-purpose mat or something that just is easy to clean up, you want to do that. And I'm just going to take my ink pad, and I'm just going to rub my ink pad along the top. And that's just going to add some interest. Now, it does kind of look like wood grain. That's not really what I'm going for. But the restaurant that we're at is outside. You eat under these little, what do you call them? Thatched roofs. And so that's just super fun to me. So I wanted to keep that natural element. So I have those, and then I'm going to add some stamping. Let me clean this up right quick. And then I'm going to pull out the Dream Maker stamp set. I also, if you have the backgrounds, the background elements, that would work too. But you know, Dream Maker is just on my table, so I tend to reach for what's close by. So what I love about this one is it's got some sentiments I'm going to try to use, but then it's also got these background stamp sets or stamped images. And if you follow me, you've seen me use these a lot. You can kind of tell that they're well loved. And I'm going to do that around where my photo is going and around where those tag clusters will be. I'm going to go ahead and get these pieces, these strips of paper glued down, just so I can kind of know where my photo is going to be. So we have that one, and then we have this wood grain from the Mix-In collection. And I'm leaving not quite 1/4 of an inch, but a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. If you want to pull out your Versamat, if you have one, you could definitely get it exact. And then I have this papaya piece. So I'm really stuck on which one I want. I love the boldness of the stars, but I kind of like this elegant feel and softness that this brings. So I'm really torn between the two. So when I'm torn, I just take my photo, put it on there, flip it over, and that is usually the easiest way to tell. And so I think that this is going to win. It is soft. And also when I bring in this one, that's one thing I love about the papaya. I think that this soft one is going to play a little bit nicer with my husband's shirt. About the same distance. This is where if you're one of those exact people, then you probably need to have some sort of measuring tool out. But that looks straight enough to me. I have all that blocked out, and I've gone ahead and I've matted my photo, and I am going to then use that as kind of a guide to know where to place my stamping. Now I am going to have this little detail over here, and then of course my title up top. So I kind of want to just pencil lightly around this little arch, and then pencil lightly right here, and then that'll kind of tell me where to stamp. Now, as far as the stamping goes, I am going to be using, again, like I said, the Dream Maker stamp set, and then I'm going to stick with the toffee ink. I've pulled out my periwinkle just in case, but I'm going to stick with the toffee. So I think I'm going to utilize this little stamp set. So you can see it's kind of got some lines in there, but it's also got just some dots, which again is perfect for water photos. And then, of course, I have been loving these words. Now, these words do say something. I'll leave that link down below if you want to read them. So far, I haven't actually used them for just the words, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and block that up, and then probably block up this little bitty stamp. And that is just kind of some filler. So you guys know I like to feel things with splatter, whether that be controlled splatter through stamping or just my shimmer brushes or my gloss sprays. So I'm going to take this little background stamp right here, and I'm going to kind of straddle that pencil mark that I made. And then I'm also going to do the same thing probably about right here, and then bring in this, kind of fill in some gaps. You can also overlap those. And then so let's bring in that photo again. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do is I want to add stamping down on this periwinkle cardstock. You can just see how just stark it is. It just seems totally different from the rest of the page. So I'm going to add some right there. I'll leave that down there blank, and I'll probably put a date down there. Okay, so we've got this, and if you know me, I like to go ahead and get the right layout done as well, and then I come back and I add the elements, the embellishments, and that's because on a 2-page layout, you really want the 2 pages to kind of be cohesive, and the way you do that is through either color blocking or embellishments that spread both pages, and it's just easier to do that if both of the layouts are already completed with the photos and the paper. So we want to put these 2 layouts side by side, and that's going to help me line up these strips of paper. Now what we do want to make sure that we do is when we're adhering this one, because this one has the tag element that tucks behind it, we want to make sure that we're not adding adhesive to the part that's going to have the tuck behind it. So I am going to go ahead and just cut off a portion of this because this tag is not very large. And I'm just going to leave enough room for some tape adhesive right there. And then I kind of want to mark right here. And that's going to allow me to kind of tuck that behind. The reason I'm not going ahead and adhering the tag to the back of this right now is all about commitment issues, if you will. So I just kind of want to leave that open. It is not going to hurt for me not to put any adhesive right there. It's not going to hurt a thing if I decide not to use that tag there. Now these don't really have to be perfect. Remember that I am incorporating this into my 12 by 12. And so this is actually a front and a back of an 8.5 by 11. And so same thing with that I did with this one, I'm going to do with this one. So I'm going to want to add some stamping. So I'm just going to kind of pencil right there. And then I think on this one, I'm going to add it right there. And then maybe right there. Okay, so I'm going to just line those photos up with my T-ruler. My stamping is done for the most part, so now I'm going to work on those little tag clusters. You can see how easy it is just to slip those little tags in behind my cardstock and my photo. And I've pulled out an old embellishment pack, but they have the same kind of color. So I'm just picking out some of the chipboard pieces as well as the stickers and the stickers from the Dream Maker that I think I'll want to use and that go well with this color scheme. For my title, I am pulling out my Versamat, and I'm going to pull out my T-ruler and use both of these tools to line up my title, which is going to be Perfect Day. Again, this is from the Dream Maker collection. Originally, I wasn't thinking the pops of gold would look good, but in the end, I really like them. So I'm going to go ahead and put on this last letter, turn it around, make sure it is straight, and then press it down really well. And then work on the subtitle, which is the word day. So there's this little strip sticker. I've added some 3D foam tape, and then I'm going to dovetail the end, again, just to kind of add some dimension. It is a little bitty letter or a little bitty word with so much real estate left on the right side of that sticker, but by dovetailing it, it makes it just look a little bit better. So all the little pieces, the stickers and the chipboard pieces that I've just kind of roughed out, now is the time to add some liquid adhesive to the back of those and get those adhered down and finally commit to the placement of those. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the right layout. There is this sticker that says love, and it has a gold letter finish on it, which again will bring the gold over to the side. And then I've got the 2 starfish. And then I'm going to play around with just a little bit more filler from that little stamp set from the Dream Maker stamp set. So I pulled out 2 rectangles from those craft chipboard pieces, and I am just making a tag shape to them, and they will be tucked in behind those little arched cutouts. I'm going to go ahead and punch a hole just like it would a tag, and then I'm going to use that word stamped image from Dream Maker just to kind of add some a little something so there's just not stark craft, and then clean up my work surface. Now I am just using some jute that I had on hand. It's white and it's got some gold filler in, which is going to again kind of play off of that title and then those little word stickers. I'm going to repeat that on the right side and then find something to hide the fact that that's not a full tag. I'm pulling out my embellishments, and there is some old embellishments from Seize the Day. I believe that was a special last fall. I believe we are finished. Now I do have my journaling to add. I'm probably going to add it over here, and I think I'm going to try like Erin does and actually print it on those clear labels. I love my handwritten journaling, but this album is probably going to be all typed journaling, and I think it's going to look really good over there, but with that clear label, you'll be able to see that ink, that toffee ink that I did to the base over here. And then, like I said, you pretty much saw me embellish everything. We've got an embellishment cluster here and here, and by using those little skinny rectangles and just cutting them to appear like tabs or tags, you would never know that they don't go all the way to the bottom. So again, remember that this sketchbook is available for purchase. You can print it at home or like I did and have it printed at your local office supply store. And then it also includes a release, a copyright release. So I will leave that link down below, as well as a link to the playlist at the very end of this video, so you can check out all the other creative design team members and see what 8.5 by 11 projects they've been creating. And then if you aren't an 8.5 by 11 scrapbooker, don't worry. You can do it like I'm doing and insert into my 12 by 12 album, or you can add to your 12 by 12 bases like I showed you earlier. So thank you so much for stopping by and watching. Before you go, please leave me a comment and a thumbs up. And if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and sign up for notifications so you'll be alerted the next time I post a crafty video. Thanks, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.